Good morning.
Hello. We'll kind of wait a little bit to start, just in case for some people to kind of fill in. We usually start a little bit early, just so right at 10 we can kind of get into the actual
Mhm.
content, and that way people have time to kind of filter in a little bit. But we can start off with the introductions real quick. I'm Spencer Koppel. I'm a digital specialist here at Key Media Solutions.
And I'm Darby Kennecke. I'm the account coordinator here at Key Media Solutions. Um, yeah, Spencer, I was actually really sad this morning when I woke up and I saw it was like 27 degrees outside. Did you see that? Or have you been outside yet?
I I was outside a little bit earlier, but it was the first time I've used heat in my new apartment, so
Yeah.
that was a little exciting. A lot louder than I expected. It kind of freaked me out when it first kicked on, and
Yeah.
it definitely smelled a little, like smoky for a little bit, but everything should be fine. I think we're good. So, but yeah, it's weird. I mean, you don't. It is October, so it's supposed to be this cold. It's just weird that it is now, I guess. Yeah, I just.
You know, it just kind of is like sad when it actually starts to get colder or like
Exactly.
past like 50 degrees. Then I'm like,
But at least the
no.
leaves are changing, so that's always something.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, should we dive right in?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so today me and Spencer are gonna go over some key metrics that everyone should know. When we're looking at numbers, there's so many things to look at, like impressions, clicks, conversions, engagement rates. And sometimes I can feel kind of like a data overload. So today we're gonna dive in to see which ones are like what those key metrics really matter. Which ones should we be looking at? And Spencer works with these metrics all day long, every day. He's behind the scenes, so he knows it in and out. So we're going to kind of do a little Q&A style here and ask him some questions about it. So Spencer, um, right off the bat, why do these metrics matter in your campaign?
And before we start too, I'll add if you have any questions in the audience, if you have any
Mm-hmm.
questions, feel free to leave comments, and we'll get to those as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, why do they matter? It really they matter because it tells us the story. That's basically what it is. You instead of just putting ads blindly out there, it tells us what the campaign's doing, if it's successful. It really shines a light on, instead of just throwing money to the wind. Is it if let's say our goal, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit later, let's say our goal is awareness. We have a company that just they want people to know their brand. They want to get that brand recognition a little bit, and so their main goal is impressions. They just want people to see their ads. Taking that data and actually being able to see, oh hey, yep, you are getting a lot of impressions, versus, and like I said, we'll get into a little later, versus a client that wants something a more engagement with, like, clicks. They want people on their website. They want people filling out forms on their website, stuff like that. Without these metrics, without actual data getting to us, there's no way to actually tell if what we're doing is successful, other than, like, oh well, yeah, your campaign's spending. Is it spending where we want it to be? That basically is what it is. It tells us the story of, is the campaign going well?
Right. And, that's why it's so important to have a goal.
Mhm.
I know we go over this in our campaign kickoff is what is the goal of the campaign so we can adjust what our digital specialists need to kind of reach the KPIs that we're really looking for in that campaign based on what are we trying to do? Is it awareness, traffic, any of those things. But Spencer, what are some key metrics that we should be watching for?
Kind of like I said before, it really depends on the goal. It depends on what you're wanting. Like I said, if you want something, in marketing, it's a funnel is what we use as a way to measure. So at the top of the funnel, you have some more awareness. Those are kind of more impressions. Kind of just like I said, where you want people to get to know your business, that you want the brand message to get out there. And then you have consideration. That's a little bit more towards like actual clicks, getting people actually onto your website, or people an action that you want them to be. And then there's the conversion stage at the bottom of the funnel, which is a lot more hyper focused. These are people that really know your brand, and they are ready to either click on your website, make a purchase, those kind of things, like very much like high engagement type things. So the metrics kind of matter that way in telling us, are they in the right spot? Are we targeting the correct thing that we want to? And just those kind of things. And kind of continuing with, the story of, is what we're doing, is what the tactics we're running, is it going well? If the client really wants an audio campaign, but they want something way lower in the funnel, audio is a little bit more geared towards like impressions and awareness. So just kind of being able to explain, like, hey, we ran this for a little bit, but we only got impressions. We aren't nobody's clicking on these audio ads because it's a little harder. They're a lot more rare to get people to click on audio ads just because of the placement itself. So kind of just taking those metrics and being able to tell a story with it.
Right, definitely. What about engagement metrics? We hear about this a lot, I feel like, in marketing.
Mhm. So with engagement metrics, and this kind of goes a little bit further into actual Google Analytics. So this kind of tells us things like clicks and click-through rate. And click-through rate is one of my favorite things to optimize for, and to kind of it makes me feel good whenever my click-through rate is looking really good. And so basically, click-through rate tells me how many people, out of people served ads, how many people actually clicked on the ad. So usually it's displayed by a percentage. So if you had 1,000 people that saw the ad and 100 people clicked on it, that means your click-through rate is pretty well. It's looking pretty good.
Right.
And so kind of having those kind of actual engagement rates. And then once kind of like going into Google Analytics and actual website traffic, we have things like bounce rate and average time on page. And that kind of paints a little bit more of a picture, more towards like the conversion side, lower in the funnel, where that tells us people are getting onto the actual website. Are they staying? How long are they staying
Mhm.
for? And that kind of tells us like areas of, if the ad's working well and we're seeing very high clicks and the click-through rates looking super solid, but then when they get on the website, like for some reason there's a fall off, that might tell us something is going on with the with either website tracking or with the website itself. E-commerce, for example, that's kind of an easy one. If your mobile format isn't working well on your website, like let's say you don't have a shop now button somewhere on your website for a mobile, it's a lot harder to get people to stay on the website, and that might increase the amount of people leaving your website basically instantly. So it's kind of just helps kind of paint that picture of, so we can have our marketing, our actual digital strategies, and see how that's doing, and then compare that to actual website, see how that's going as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know just even as a consumer from that kind of standpoint, when you are going on like an e-commerce website, for example, and it's so hard to navigate through their mobile kind of dashboard. It's like, where do I go? You get frustrated and you just click out right away. And like sometimes you just want sometimes it's hard to get your desktop and mobile website to kind of level out.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the easiest explanation too. Sometimes it's literally
Right.
just, and as a user myself too, it's like, scrolling, it shouldn't be as difficult as it is, but sometimes, yeah, if I have to scroll on a website, it's like, maybe I don't need this thing or something like that. Like, and it's kind of just how the world of e-commerce works nowadays, where if it's not super user friendly, it could potentially cause that bounce rate. And that's kind of what's nice with metrics and having data to actually prove that. It's like, hey, yeah, it looks like 80% of our users are coming from mobile, but
Mhm.
barely any of the people purchasing are coming from mobile. It's like, okay, so obviously there's a story there. Like, why is this happening? So it's kind of just interesting, and it's fun to kind of dig into the platforms itself and see just weird little quirks like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then last but not least, how do we turn all these metrics and all these numbers into action?
Kind of like I said before, actually changing tactic. If something's not working, kind of highlighting that. Like, hey, your campaign, we're running XYZ tactic, something programmatic might not be working. And so kind of just taking those, instead of wasting that budget, just hope like, well, it might get better, but instead actually looking at the data and getting results that actually make sense. So turning those like taking those metrics and that data and actually doing some research and figure out, okay, here's where the mismatch is happening. Here's the solution for it. This would make more sense for this, and then kind of continuing from there, getting some like further info within platform, and just seeing like, oh, hey, yeah, it looks like your KPIs, your key performance indicators are way up, those kind of things. But actually taking the story of the data and learning from it rather than just being like, well, yeah, the campaign's not looking too hot, and like, well, actually taking that data and doing something with it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a theme in marketing, especially in today's topic, is it depends,
Yep.
and like based on your goals, that's how we're gonna change, direction when we get those KPIs, and kind of move as you go and like adjust as you need to reach your goals for sure.
Mhm.
Just to wrap up then, at the end of the day, metrics aren't just about measurement, it's about momentum in your campaign and watching it grow and flourish and focusing on those right metrics to get the best outcome, is super important. And that's what our team is trying to help you do. And Spencer does every day and he does great at it. So thank you everyone for like tuning in, and we're gonna stay on just for a little bit to see if you guys have questions.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, if you guys do have any questions about anything, even if it's after, if you're watching this after it aired, feel free to leave stuff in the comments. Leave some, if you have other ideas for future 10 at 10s, leave those
Mhm.
because we will definitely look into them. And we're always looking for cool topics that you guys are interested in. We can always find something cool that we're interested in, but there might be stuff that you guys are wanting to know about that, we might know, but we don't know that you guys want to know, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. See any comments for um, but we will see you guys next week at 10 o'clock.
Yep. See you guys.